What is going, guys? My name is Seats. Welcome back to another episode of Feeds Mindset, episode number 40 with the man, Hoffy, man. Welcome in. How are you?
I'm doing amazing. Thank you for having me, Feeds. It's awesome, man. We've been planning to do this for a while. I know like things get in the way and everything, but we finally got things squared away, and I'm excited to finally even talk with you, even just to do this. It's awesome.
Yeah, definitely. It's kind of, good timing, of course, too. If you guys don't know, me and Hoffy are a part of the Respawn recruits that are currently going on right now. So it's kind of also helps because it's another collab for us, but at the same time, just this podcast is all the same, of course. Obviously, it's not going to be focused on that. But of course, I appreciate you being able to be on and hang out with me and just have a little bit of time to talk about everything. So I got to ask an obvious question I've been kind of waiting to say, and I promised myself I wouldn't bring this up until, how do you feel about constantly being referenced to the Polar Express?
Oh, God. Okay, so I actually don't know where it originated, but I know like one day, I think it was Tay Woods. If you know Tay Woods, pretty sure he brought it up at one point, and then like he posted a picture of me side by side of the kid from Polar Express on Twitter, and then everybody started loving it. They loved it so much, and I was just like, oh my God. And then I don't want to stay stuck on this topic
good.
because like I deal with it a lot more than I should. But long story short, I was on Omega one night, and I was just like screen sharing my friends in Discord. I was talking to this girl in like Australia, whatever, and we were just like BSing. She grabs her phone and she pulls up a picture of the kid from Polar Express, and I was like, you gotta be kidding me. You have to be kidding me. So like at that point, it's just like, okay, like it's inevitable to dodge it. But I don't know. To this day, people still ask me if I get royalties from it. I'm like, no, I don't. But
yeah, you definitely have to think about it before you go into bed. I guarantee you, just thoughts roll through your head. I'm sure it does. But it's so funny, man. I've seen that going on for like well over a year now, and I just wanted to bring it up because it's been on so long, and everybody still gets like a belly laugh out of it. It's hilarious. But
so funny.
But anyways, so just wanted to kind of get to know you first before we get into everything. So just kind of for anybody watching, whether it's my community, Hoffy's community, or anybody from Respawn or anywhere else, just kind of let us know, who is Hoffy and what do you do?
Okay. Well, hi everybody. My name's Hoff. Pretty much, I just enjoy playing Call of Duty and making content on Call of Duty. Just like everyone else, like I grew up playing, the golden days of COD, which is like Black Ops 2, Modern Warfare 2. Like these were like days where, we were all around or at least me, I was around the age of like 9 to like 12. So it's like experiencing that at that age was amazing because I didn't have like any other responsibilities other than school and then just like video games. And then that was really it. And then my friends who I went to school with had the same type of responsibilities. And we grew up in that era, so like looking up to all the greats like Pamaj, just even the people that were like the bigger names in the sniping community, you kind of fall in love with that a little bit. It's something really amazing too, because like my first actual game that I can say like threw me into gaming was like Lego Indiana Jones. I was like 9 years old, Xbox 360 was thrown in my face, and I was just like, man, this is cool, like this is awesome. And then Modern Warfare 2 came, and I was like, oh my God, this is awesome, this is amazing. And just going through that whole like timeline and just coming to where it is now, like everybody still has that nostalgic love for COD. It's not as amazing as it was back then because like we all, it was just like a classic feel. But that was one of the biggest things that kind of like threw me into the whole love for gaming, was just watching all the YouTubers and just being like, man, I would love to just replicate or even make something that's even slightly close to being as good as people like to throw an example like KY or Speedy, watching the crew during like Modern Warfare 3, seeing videos like that would just like have me staring at my phone for hours on end and forgetting the time. Like that's kind of what threw me in the loop a little bit. And then of course you have your competitors like Scump, Nadeshot, all the people back in like the Optic Dynasty. It was so cool to watch. And I think that's kind of where it comes from. And that's what kind of like dragged me more into the love for COD. And on top of other games like that, like, just out of curiosity, that's kind of how like I try to dwindle away from COD a little bit. And that's what I'm actually like hoping to do. But in terms of gaming, I would say that. And like with the originality of my name, it comes from like part of my name. And that was like my nickname growing up in 4th grade. I think it was my friend Zach back in the day. He just called me. He said Hoffy, and I was like, "Wait, I like this I like this name. Like it's dope. Like I actually like this nickname." And that's kind of where it originated. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna stick with it. You know, as
Yeah.
it's okay. Like I've heard great things about it. I got a lot of compliments from it, but that's kind of where that came from. And you know, I just always, found I always found time to appreciate gaming. It was like in a way, it was like my escape from reality, you know.
Yeah.
If I felt a certain type of way or anything, I always went to gaming, or even if I just wanted to hang out with my friends, that's how we kind of spent time together. And I still do that to this day, not as often, obviously, because we're a lot older and
Right.
everything. We're all adults now. But yeah, if it wasn't gaming, I would be doing things like sports. Like I grew up playing football, basketball, you name it. Like I loved it, and just the brotherhood of sports like that. That's what kind of brought me in a lot more, and it made me more of an extrovert, but I'm an introvert at the same time.
Hmm.
So like it's kind of all over the place with me with my personality.
Yeah.
But um in terms of anything else, my other hobbies are just like going to the gym, working on my mindset, simple things like reading books, whether it's just seeing stuff online and just like
Yeah.
scoping it out and kind of picking apart like certain authors' brains, or even just watching movies. Like you see a really good movie, like one movie that I absolutely love and that will always like be in the back of my mind is I Am Legend with Will Smith.
Hmm.
And I'm trying to think of the one movie with I think it's with Matthew McConaughey. I forget the name of it right now. I'm drawing a blank. But I think it's called Interstellar. I think it
Hmm.
is.
I don't think
Yeah,
I've seen that one.
Interstellar.
I've seen the one with Will Smith. I've seen that one.
You would love it. You would love it. It's so good. Like drawn out the whole movie. The ending's amazing. But yeah, it's just stuff like that that made me like fall in love with kind of like, I guess you could say, cinema and content creation. And it's just like, oh, this is cool, So
Yeah.
that's kind of what drew me into like the whole gaming scene, I guess you could
Yeah.
say.
Most definitely. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that, off of what you just said that I definitely want to touch up on later on. I definitely want to talk a lot about mental health. It's very unique that you've brought up that you've found ways to start passing by time, just simple as reading books and simple things like that is just something that you don't feel like you hear from this gaming community. Simple things like that. There's a lot of people that neglect their mental health and they don't understand how important it is. So I think it's definitely very important that you normalize those things. Before we kind of continue on my questions, I wanted to touch back a little bit on what you said, of course. Obviously, I grew up in the COD time as well. I started out as a COD creator. Now I'm kind of not really all over the place, but I have my certain channels. Of course, I was known for Call of Duty for the most longest time, and COD Ghost, which is my favorite COD of all time. COD Ghost is what kind of got my growth in that, but I didn't really understand, Pomage and FaZe Clan and all that. I didn't really know all that till about like Black Ops 3, which kind of stunk a little bit because Ghost was my first ever COD I ever played, and I played it for probably about a year before I didn't know anything about like Black Ops 2 or nothing. I was just playing search and rescue and just having fun. I think it was my like 8th grade or freshman like summer that I played it and when I discovered it and stuff. So I was about probably like 15, 16 years old when I really got into COD. And man, I really wish that I could go back in time and relive that stuff because I remember specifically off of COD Ghost, I remember watching so many competitive plays for it and all the UMGs and stuff that would get streamed. It was such a fun time, man. And I miss it so much because now it's so saturated and overshadowed and it's just not as fun as it used to be. At all. But something I wanted to touch on before we kind of go on with everything else. Of course, you have your content and I would say, for the most part, you were known as a COD creator. I would say that's kind of your main game, would you say?
Yeah.
So you stream on Kick and YouTube. I've seen you've been doing a lot of YouTube content here lately. Kind of take me through that. When did you start getting into YouTube?
Well, originally I started doing YouTube, I want to say like in high school. Like towards junior, senior high school. And that was one of those things I just wanted to try out and just see what happened. And then, towards that transition from high school to college, uh, I kind of had like a falling out of content creation and streaming. But then I would say it was like sophomore year of college where I started taking it a little bit more seriously, like kind of getting more involved with social media and stuff like that, and kind of, getting out of my comfort zone. And that's where I like originally came back to streaming a lot more, and I was a lot more consistent with it. But
Mm-hmm.
I always grew up watching. We have creators today, like at least for me, like I main mostly S&D content, and then with all the other Call of Duty creators, I used to love watching I used to love watching people like Rhymes, Bams, Futives, and
Mhm.
just seeing them, and just to, like, the amount of reactions they would get in a lobby. Oh, it almost like takes you back to like 2009 when everybody was just like forced to be in game chat, and then
Yeah. It
it
was
was
just a
just oh,
lunchroom.
it was just a lunchroom, absolutely. And I think that's kind of what it is, because there's no better feeling than like having such an amazing game and then everybody just calling you every single name
Yeah.
under the book, and it's like, oh my god. And I think that's kind of what it was, because it was one of those things where I wanted to try it, but I was always like on the fence, because it's like,
Hmm.
yeah, this would be cool, but like I don't really know if I could like actually get somebody to like, you know actually watch my videos or even feel a certain type of way about my videos. But once I started to see a little bit of, positive impact on people and just growth in itself, not that that matters, and that's the only reason I do it, but it kind of opens your eyes a little bit. And it's like that kind of, it's like a relief.
Hmm.
And it was a relief to me because it was something I always wanted to try and pursue, and that I think I always will try and pursue. And I think the main thing is that I always worried about numbers, and I feel
Yeah.
like, as a lot of people do now, at least nowadays in such a saturated environment, a lot of people worry about numbers, and that's where they kind of lose focus on what they should be doing and what actually interests them. Because as you stated earlier when we were talking, it's such a saturated place, and everybody's trying to do the same thing, and it's like, you need that one clip to pop off, and if it does pop off, is it really gonna get the traction it deserves? And that's what really sucks about this community, because I feel like there's a lot of great people, don't get me wrong, but at the end of the day, we're all our own biggest critics, and we're always wishing that we would get so much more. And there's a lot of underrated people too who deserve a lot more.
Yeah.
But that was one of the biggest things for me, was like, doing YouTube videos, I always focused on what other people had going on instead of what I had going on, or what I tried to at least have going on. And I learned to just stay in my own lane and obviously take inspiration. It's always great to like see somebody doing something and then try to like not 100% copy their blueprint, but mimic it a little bit in your own way and fashion. And that's what I try to do with certain things, and just put my own spin on it. So I think that's what helped it out. I think that's what helped me out, in a sense.
Hmm.
And that's what I want to continue to try to do. But also do it to a point I'm not forcing myself to play it, because I still enjoy the game. Don't get me wrong. I'll get on COD and I'll just, I'll play a game and I'm just like, I already want to get off, because like
Yeah.
skill based matchmaking. If you know, you know,
Hmm.
skill based matchmaking. And that was one of the biggest things for me, was just, staying focused on me and just trying to evolve in my own way, shape, and form. And that's what I would advise like other people too, as well, if they're trying to get into like YouTube content creation or even just streaming. Like, it's great to look after, or look towards one another and see what someone has going on, but make sure to like remind yourself you're your own person.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I learned.
Yeah, most definitely. And I think that's kind of the sad part about nowadays is a lot of people kind of put their personalities to the side and they find out what's trending and find out what's hot. And like, oh, so-and-so blew up off of that clip. I hit that in my sleep, blah, blah, blah. And a lot of people gain a like self-sufficient ego about themselves where they think that they're the best and they think that they deserve everything, and that's the reason why they don't get nothing in return, because they take their personality and everything that makes them about the clip. Like, just for example, obviously something about me, the biggest reason why I blown up is not because of the clips I had, not because of my ranked and stuff. It's because something really stupid is my laugh. Everybody loves my laugh, and that's what happens in my clips, and I have my little laugh in the background and stuff, and that's what makes people smile. They don't see my clip and they say wow or whatever, and that's just the aspect that people miss nowadays. They don't understand the personality aspect of what puts them in that clip, and that's why there's so many people that feel like they deserve everything that get nothing, because they're so focused on being better than somebody else that at the end of the day, if that game were to fall off and you have to be a creator, I mean, you would get wiped with the floor with all these other creators that are already doing it. And that's why you don't get opportunities, because they're not comfortable enough saying, hey, if you're an insane player at Fortnite and let's say the Fortnite servers get shut down, you then cannot provide nothing for us because you have nothing else in your gameplay. So that's a really big thing that I think a lot of people need to kind of focus more on is how to be themselves more, and how to adjust to a healthy environment. And I think that's the biggest thing, is a lot of people don't even know that they're in a negative environment, but they're just so caught up in whatever their spiteful reasons are for being in that, and they lose sight of being themselves. And give it a couple months later, they say, oh, this community stinks, nobody supports me, and then they quit, and then you don't see them again.
Yep. And I think the thing is too, to add on that real quick, is that
Mhm.
a lot of people think this stuff happens overnight, And I felt like even me, I was a victim of that. I thought like, well, it's been like X amount of months. Why am I not seeing anything? Well, it's because it's one of those things where like, whether you feel like it or not, somebody's always watching. It might not feel like it, but there is somebody always watching. And to throw in a quick example, I
Mhm.
remember like when I was still first coming in the community and everything, and there was a time where I was just doing my own thing, and then one day, you know who Barl is
Mhm.
from NorCal, absolutely.
Mhm.
And he reached out to me. He was like, "Hey, we would love to make you part of NorCal," and then that's where that came from. And I was like that right there was an example to me. Like, no matter if I feel like I'm not doing anything right, somebody thinks you're doing something right. So like that's kind of how I flipped the switch on my mindset to where I think, more with like an optimistic mindset as opposed to being like a pessimist. And thinking with the glass half full, it definitely has a lot more benefits, and it's a lot more healthier in the long term than thinking with the glass like half empty. So
Yeah.
that's the one thing I would say about this calm too. Everybody thinks like everybody's out to get them. They don't want to see them succeed. It's the exact opposite. There's a lot of great people in this space. It's just we all got stuff going on,
Yeah.
and not everybody can take that time out of their day and just support every single thing they're doing. But if you put the work in, you will get noticed for it. Absolutely.
Yeah, most definitely. And I think, another example, you with NorCal, obviously, I grounded for the recruitment challenge, so mine's not specifically the same, but with Elgato. Elgato is my first and only sponsorship that I've ever had, and they just randomly reached out to me and said, hey, we want to make you a part of this program. We watched your stuff and we thought you was really cool. So that's kind of on top of what you're saying to kind of bounce off that. Somebody's always watching, and you may think you're the most minimalist creator, but it doesn't matter. All the big people and all the big creators that's already made it, there's still opportunities out there for anybody and everybody of any size, and it just all depends on that company's standards and kind of what their beliefs are and what they want to see in the future, because their future may not entitle all these big creators. There are some legit companies that say, hey, we want only smaller people that are genuine and that we really feel like we could just mold them and help them grow and be better. And I think that's a big thing that a lot of people are missing. A lot of people is like, oh, I won't get all this success and all these opportunities until I'm big. And that's far from the truth. It goes back again to my old little saying, you have to be yourself first. Otherwise, people are never going to understand who you are. So obviously we've had a little bit of talk of COD and kind of coming up and stuff, but obviously we've not specifically talked about it. So kind of tell me, as a kid, growing up and getting into the space and getting into gaming, how did gaming start evolving for you? What did you first start playing, and how did you get to, even being here today just by getting into gaming?
Um, for me, gaming like started evolving whenever, like I'm the youngest out of three. So I grew up with two older brothers, and we always had to share a console growing up and everything. And every time I hopped on the game, like I would always realize like how I would always realize how much gaming makes me feel like satisfied wise, and it also
Mhm.
made me feel a lot more like excited. If I did something, it would just throw me off the wall. Like I remember playing like Gears of War back in the day with my brothers, and I would just go like absolutely insane one game, and the amount of dopamine, like that effect right there, it's something I wanted to hold on to forever.
Yeah.
And as time went on, and everything, and understanding things a lot more, and growing up in like a more, I guess you could say, like revolutionized age where we didn't have social media, but it was coming on the come up with like Facebook, and then
Yeah.
Twitter came, and then it's like everything like that. It's like, oh well, like now I can actually like showcase and meet people, and network and everything. That right there is what kind of threw me into gaming a lot more. Once I found out how to work certain things and actually like be able to showcase myself, it made it a lot easier. It definitely made it a lot easier, and just even just playing with my friends like split screen back in the days where we
Hmm.
would just everybody would play 1v1 Rust, or just holding like I think it was like a private match of like 8 people, and then everybody would just do quick scopes only, and then I
Yeah.
would always be like one of the top three, and I was like, oh okay, not to like be egotistical, but it's like, oh okay, like I'm decently good at this game for
Yeah.
like being like 10 or 11. I was like, okay, yeah, I like Call of Duty, like this is cool, this is fun. Or even I just like gaming in general. And I think that's what kind of evolved a little bit. And as time went on, and things started picking up, and then I started getting used to just pushing myself out there, because I feel like that's one of the biggest like boundaries too, is like introducing yourself as a streamer. Because at the time now, like if you're a streamer, like, oh, people think that's cool, but I
Yeah.
think like 5, 7 years ago, if like you were in school and you were streaming everything, not that you should worry about what people think about you. I
Mm-hmm.
know that's gonna come here and there, but that was one of the things that kind of was like I guess you could say like a mental block for me,
Yeah,
because I didn't
definitely.
want people to know what I did on my free time. But like if you were close to me, you understood that.
Yeah, because they'll come back
And
the next day during school and be like, "Oh, I watched your stream last night. You know, it was such a waste of time." Blah blah. Yeah, I fully understand that. I feel like a little bit of that nowadays, but nowhere near as big as I feel. Obviously, I'm not a kid anymore, so I don't really know what happens in school, of course. But I don't feel like it's nowhere near as bad as it used to be.
yeah, it used to be really really strange at that time. Not strange, but it used to be like, I guess you could say unorthodox,
Mhm.
because it was just like, oh, streamer this, or you're making YouTube videos and whatever. But as opposed to now, I think it's really cool. I truly do love how the esports industry is growing. It's dope
Mhm.
to see, and I think that's really what it is. Like learning how to just stream. It's learning how to stream myself with like a PC and everything like that, and becoming more familiar definitely made it a lot easier. And I think that's what kind of evolved it even more with gaming, and just going from a kid starting out playing like Lego Indiana Jones to like now still playing Call of Duty and stuff, and actually being a lot more familiar and being a lot more competent with how to organize like my streams and my content definitely helps out a lot more. And it gives me a lot more confidence too, because I definitely know a lot more now than I did years ago. So
Yeah,
yeah.
most definitely. And I think that's kind of a big insight that a lot of people miss is, you know, everybody has personal things that go through life, whether, let's say, school's not working out for you. Maybe you're working a job you don't like, or maybe your family situation isn't that good or whatever. Something you can always be proud of is just something simple as gaming and streaming and editing and learning how to post and learning how to reach out to the people. You know, that's all things that you can be proud of yourself. And I feel like a lot of people miss that. I feel like there's a lot of talented people that know how to do more things than me and you combined, and they just kind of treat it like, oh, well, everybody knows that. And it's like, it's something you took time out of yourself because you were passionate about it, you learned it, and now you do, and you could edit me 10 times over. You know, I'm still sitting here on the same video and you've got 4 already rendered, you know? So I feel like that's a big thing that a lot of people miss, is they don't understand how to be proud of themselves. Do you kind of feel the same way?
Yeah, I definitely feel that, because I think it's like a thing where it's like, um, you know, kind of going back to what I said a little bit, is like
Mhm.
we're all our own like biggest critics when it comes to things. Like if you could do this certain thing X amount of times, it's just natural to you. And, it might be a little obscure to somebody else. It's like, oh, that's really cool. Like, he does this on his free time, whatever, whatever. And then people see that, because nobody is really gonna understand your passion for something except for yourself. You can only try to explain it in words to an extent, but I think over time, if people see the improvement you make and the results that could come from it, that's where people kind of, they start to ease in a little bit, like, oh, that's really cool. And that's where they kind of come out from their shadows, and they're like, oh, I see what you're doing. That's really dope. And I'm not trying to put a label on anybody or anything, but for a specific example, like there was people I went to school with, and these were the same people who kind of like, the people are gonna say things, they're gonna say negative things, and it is
Mhm.
what it is. Everyone's allowed to have an opinion, but there was definitely people who felt a certain type of way about content creation at that time. But then, like, as time goes on, those same specific people came back and was like, hey, I just want to let you know, like, I see what you're doing. You're doing awesome. And that's not an ego thing for me, but it's just like, damn, like, I put in all that time and they realize like how much it means to me. It's awesome. Like, I
Yeah.
can't even describe that feeling,
Yeah.
because it's just something you always wanted to hear and experience, and even from your friends and family too. Like, it's so amazing, and I truly hope that a lot of people get to experience something like that, because not only just like, don't get me wrong, I love proving people who doubt me wrong. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
of course. Like, I don't want to sound cliche, but it's just really dope, because it's like you are doing something right, and the amount of time you're putting into something, like, it's showing that, and it's working out, and that's just right there, that right there just gives not only me but a lot of people motivation to continue what they love and continue what they try to strive to be in the future. So it's really dope. It's really
Yeah.
really cool.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree. I mean, it's something you can't put a price tag on, and I think that's kind of, you know, as far as like normalizing and mental health and stuff, and we'll talk about a couple of things, kind of later on in this podcast. But I think that's a big thing. Is there's a lot of people that they just woke up one day and they're like, you know what? I've been watching Hoffy a lot recently. Hey, Hoffy, man, you're doing great. Keep it up. That moves mountains. That really gives an impact to that creator that you're watching. It really makes them feel great. And it may just be a simple text to you, but to them it could make their whole day, their whole week, their whole month. You don't know what anybody's got going on, and obviously it could get like very sad upon whatever your circumstance is or whatever you're going through or whatever battles you're fighting. But just that right there is just going to give them that little bit of extra push, and that is definitely something that I think, in my personal opinion, should be normalized a lot, because if we had a lot more of that in this community, we would have a lot less negative.
Yeah, I definitely agree. You honestly, I couldn't have said it better, because, it's, even though it is a gaming community and banter is banter, like I understand, well, like you get in a COD lobby, stuff happens, or even just people just like to, joke around. Sometimes like people take it too far, and it can really hurt somebody, because don't get me wrong, like a lot of people can be sensitive to an extent, but at the same time, it's like it's one thing to joke around, but it's one thing to actually like have a personal attack against somebody.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things nowadays that's really disgusting. Like we're all aware of cancel culture, like 100%.
Mm-hmm.
But I just think that like there's no reason to actually attack somebody whenever they're just trying to be themselves or they're just worried about their own business. That's one of the things that I believe I talked about before, was like I feel like the world would revolve around so much smoother if everybody just minded their own business.
Yeah. Yeah, most definitely. And that's kind of the thing, that stinks. I mean, obviously not for newer creators, but, for creators like myself, and I'm not sure obviously what you've dealt with and things that you've gone through, but I mean, I've had people tell me my name and my address and where I'm at and stuff, and it's like it's disgusting, because it don't need to go that far. Like the reference that I just gave, it was literally because, I'm not even joking when I say this, I had a 6 on in war in this COD, and I had a 6 on him, and he was like, "Oh, you're so bad aimbotting," and all I replied was "get clipped," and then instantly name, address, you're going to get swatted, you're going to get hacked, blah blah blah. And I was like, dude, it's not that serious. And so I just blocked him. I sent him to a couple of people that I knew, and then his account got banned. And so it's sad the way that is. And the thing that stinks about it is it's never going to change. So all you can do as a person is just raise awareness.
Yeah, seriously.
So, but we've talked a lot about gaming and everything that you've kind of come up and heard your amazing story and some different things that you've went through. So kind of take me now through streaming. We've talked about gaming and how much that's impacted your life and really getting through certain times and really understanding the COD scene. And obviously, just like you said, you want to start branching out into different things other than COD. But kind of get me through how streaming started for you. And even if YouTube ended up along that way, because I know that you're very active on your YouTube now, 2 and 2 the same and same. So just kind of take me through how streaming started up for you.
Streaming kind of started out for me whenever it was more so around 2017. This was when like Fortnite was the utmost fun. It's still fun nowadays to a lot of people, but I remember having like a PS4, and then I saw you were able to stream. I got myself like a little webcam, and I was like, it'll be cool. You know what I mean? Like I'll just pop up a stream, just tweet it out at the time, because like I didn't have like a gaming Twitter. I had like a personal Twitter, and then it was just like, whoever wants to stop by, come stop by, and it was cool. Like the experience of it was cool and everything. And I think that's what it was. Like experiencing Fortnite at its peak. I think that's what made me fall in love with streaming so much more.
Yeah.
And of course, like when everybody thinks of streaming, they think of, oh, you're gonna get so much money from it, or you're gonna get so many donations and everything. But I think for me, the most satisfying part of streaming is somebody coming in your stream and they're out in like Germany, they're out in like Thailand, and it's like, this is crazy. Like it's just insane to me that you're across the world and you're interacting with me and I'm interacting with you. Like it's so cool. And I think that's what it is too. Just learning where a lot of people come from and the different stories they have. That's what kind of built my love up for streaming. And that's the reason why like I still do it to this day. Don't get me wrong, like I love playing the game. I love people watching me play the game, but I also love just interacting with chat. I know it's very vague when it comes to a lot of Call of Duty streamers, because they're very like hyper focused on the game, and they're not really like trying to read like every message that they can with their chat. But I always love just trying to find ways just to be interactive, and that's one of the things that I look to do, like at least in the future, just with more variety and just getting, kind of getting like recommendations from people on how to improve some streaming. Just watching other people too. I think that's one of the things too, because there's a lot of people like you'll watch nowadays, like Tim the Tatman, Nick Merckx, all those people, like even Dr. Disrespect, like that was even to this day, he's still one of my favorite streamers to watch, and he's so entertaining, and it's really cool to see. And I've probably spoke on it before, but there were a couple times where somebody would come into my stream, they're not having the best day,
Mm-hmm.
like something might have happened, and I was like, hey man, it'll be all right. If you need to DM me, feel free. Like there's that connection there. Obviously, like there's a fine line you can't cross, but at the same time, it's like you can have an impact on somebody's day. Why not make it a good impact? You
Yeah.
know? And there's a certain amount of people who go that extent, but some people they kind of just see it as like, whatever. Like it's just one person, and they don't really care for them as much as they should. But at the end of the day, somebody is taking time out of their day to stop by, say hello, and watch you. And that alone, whether or not they sub, whether or not they even follow, like that right there means a lot to me, more than people would actually think.
Yeah.
So that was one of the things that was always, you know, really, really cool to me. And it always will be. And as time goes on, I really hope people get involved with streaming a lot more
Yeah.
and they actually see it for what it is and not what they hope for it to be. Like in terms of just sub money,
Bro.
donations. Like of course those things are like it's their benefits and they'll come along the way. But in reality, like it's just a way of networking and meeting with people. And that's kind of how like we even had mutuals feeds,
Yep.
and just meeting other people. Like even not even just yourself streaming, but like just tuning into someone's stream, you'll see someone's name, be like, "Yo, I've seen your name before. Like, what the heck? You're
Yeah.
cool." Like, even if it was just like a one-liner conversation or whatever, it's just like, what the heck? Like, I just saw this guy's name on this person's chat. I just saw him on Twitter. Let me toss him a follower. Like, I just saw this guy's name on COD. I just saw him on Twitter. And the amount of times that's happened to me, or whether it was in Cold War, or like any of the recent games, it was just like, whoa! It's like you're in like a kind of weird dream. It's just like, what the heck? I just saw your name. Now I see it on Twitter. Like, and now all of a sudden I'm like, we're friends and like we're playing together. So it's stuff like that that's really cool. So I think streaming is really cool, and I love it so much because it introduced me to so many amazing people, and that's one of the things that I'll always cherish forever.
Yeah.
For as long as I'll live or I'll stop streaming. That's one of the
Yeah.
dopest things that anyone could ever experience.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely the beauty of it. I feel like that's kind of the normal cliche thing to say is that you never know who you're going to run into, but it's a clear thing. Like with me and Hoff, for example, we've probably been following each other in mutuals for like over a year. I've not really talked to him. He's been to my stream a couple times. I've been to his streams, but we've not really talked. And we've been planning this podcast as we started out for a while, probably like 3-4 months. We've been talking, just trying to get our schedules figured out, and it's tough. There's a lot of life circumstances, but you just never know when you're going to cross, and if so. So I think that's kind of the more important part of it. It's not treat everybody like you're going to talk to them eventually, but always give everybody the respect, because even if you're just having a bad day and say something negative, let's say I did that to Hoffy, 4 or 5 months ago, and then I reach out to him again for this podcast, and he's like, no, F you, like, get out of here. Like, I don't want you in my community, and that's like your impression is what makes you get whatever opportunities come your way, whether it's a collab, whether it's a video, just a little game night, maybe it's just a conversation off stream, off camera, whatever it may be. You are the one that can lose out on that depending on how you react.
Yeah, and I think with that too is like, you know, first impression definitely is everything. You definitely want to set a good first impression with a lot of people, and even with like a community like this, at least on the COD side, like it might feel like it's a little bit bigger, but it's also a little smaller at the same
Yeah.
time. Or like if one person feels some type of way, they might be like, "Hey, I don't know about this person over this person." I know you can't leave the best impression on everybody because everyone's gonna have their own opinion on you, but you might as well try to leave the best that you can in terms of impression. You know what I mean? So that way, whenever they go to talk about you, there isn't really that like negative narrative they could put on your name. I know
Yeah.
that's easier said than done with a lot of people and a lot of things, but that's one thing I'd always try to like proceed with caution whenever I'm trying to talk with certain people or even just trying to meet new people because it's inevitable to avoid, people who just want to cause chaos for no reason
Yeah.
at all. Like you could be the nicest person in the world, somebody's gonna find something to say about you, and it's either A, you react in a negative way, or B, you take it for what it is and you just ignore it. And whoever comes to you about it, you'd be like, hey man, I don't know what he's talking about. I don't know what she's talking about. I'm just doing my own thing. I'm minding my business. And that's one thing people gotta look out for too. Definitely
Yeah.
like keep your head on a swivel is one thing I grew up it's kind of been like a motto for me for a while, even for football. Like they used to always say, like, if you're like a cornerback or like, you're in this defensive secondary, you always want to keep your head on a swivel to see what's going on. So you definitely want to keep your head on a swivel and see what's going on in terms of like the things around you and people around you, because people are going to say a lot of negative, weird things whenever you're just being yourself and you're just being friendly and you're just being nice. So
Yeah. And it's kind of, I mean, same thing, for me, to bounce off that, it's like, I grew up a lot in the car world and auto shop and stuff. And that's something a lot of people would always say is, hey, don't forget your blind spot, make sure you're always looking around and always kind of getting an idea of who's coming your way or how you're coming off. There's always two sides to every story. So it's definitely important to always leave a good impression. And I think, and we'll get into this, of course, I'm sure that you'll have your own opinion on this, of course, but you never want to do anything if you're feeling negative, whether you're streaming, whether you're creating content or whatever. You don't want to do it and you click that start stream button with a negative mindset, because it's just going to be nothing. So on that topic, of course, we've talked about your gaming and streaming, and you even brought up about your name. That's usually something I ask, but you kind of already covered that, so that's perfectly fine. You have a couple of things that you want to talk about that I asked you beforehand, and it's going to kind of follow through my normal questions that I ask. So let's go ahead and kind of dive into this and get your opinions and your takes. So there could be a possibility of streamers or creators that are watching this that have either not produced content, or they're scared of producing content, or they don't know what to do or how to approach it. They don't have the setup or whatever. What advice would you give to new creators getting into this space?
Well, one of the things that I would give to new creators who are thinking about starting is that, like, even if you feel a little bit uncomfortable, that's okay, because I think great things can come from people who feel like in an uncomfortable state of mind. And I feel like a lot of people think that, they might have an idea for a video, or, an idea to start streaming, but they always think of like, well, what if it doesn't go as good? What if, it's like, yeah, I could do this, or I could do this, but it, you know what I mean? Sometimes you just feel like you have nothing to lose and you just want to try it. And next thing you know, something good can happen. And it's like, okay, like I did do this, or I did put out this video, but it's like, well, what about the next video? Like, it's not going to, what if it doesn't bring any good?
Yeah.
It's like, you're still trying. I feel like that's one of the things people got to do is, as long as you're trying, that's all that matters. And, it's one of those things that we kind of touched on earlier. If you want to see numbers, you want to see success, or you even just want to meet more people, it's not going to happen overnight. A lot of people can attest to that. And I would also recommend to people that, like, don't worry about, having the, the best PC or the best backdrop or setup for your streams or whatever. As long as you can put out something you enjoy and something you think other people would enjoy, then like that's a start. Because some people don't even have that. Some people don't have certain things that you could even think about doing. So it's like, why not try it? You know what I mean? Like, if you find it some, like, it's something fun you could do, you might as well try it and see what happens. And another thing I would also recommend, I know we touched on it, go into it with an open mind. Don't worry about the numbers as much, and definitely don't worry about how other people are going to see, like, or don't worry about how other people are going to critique you about it. I think that's one of the things too. It's just like, everybody always thinks of what other people are going to think of them, but it's like, it's really how you think about yourself and how you want to portray yourself. And once you kind of break that mold, it's like, okay, like, this is getting easier, with like starting out from like having less than a month streaming to, like, imagine what it's going to be like in 6 months or like a year. It's going to be like, clockwork, you like all those times. And I remember, just first few times streaming, just putting on a webcam, and it's like, you feel like, I don't know what it is, but you feel a little bit of like anxiety, to where, at least for me, where I feel like people are going to see how I look when I play, or, just how I talk when I play, and then everything else. Once you get used to that, it's like, oh, it's just like another day of just playing. You know what I mean? It's one of those things where it's like, if you present in front of a class, it's like you get those nerves.
Yeah.
And once those nerves wear off, it's like, oh, okay, like, this isn't so bad. Like, I get so used to it that this is nothing. And I think that's one of the things too. People just gotta get those nerves off their body, kind of just work around it, get more comfortable. And once you do, it's a lot better. And in terms of like actually starting out though, one thing I would recommend is just, just be kind to everybody. I know we touched on that, but definitely just treat people how you want to be treated. I know that's very vague and it's very cliche to a lot of people, but it's just like, why would you ever go out of your way to treat somebody how you wouldn't want to be treated? in like a random fashion too. Like somebody you don't even know, just going out of the way saying something negative about them. Like you don't want someone saying that to you. It's like,
Yeah.
why would you say it to somebody else? And some people tend to forget that and they just do it. But it's like once you realize that, and once you realize like how much your voice and your opinion can have on somebody, that's where like things start clicking, and that's where like people start changing their mindset. And that's one thing I would say is definitely, if you're gonna get into streaming a lot more, definitely don't do it on negative mindset, like you said, Feeds,
Right.
because there's a lot of times where you don't feel the best and people still try to stream, or they might say something, or they might react a certain type of way. It's not the best outcome. So I would say if you're feeling good and you want to do it, try it. You have nothing to lose. Why not?
Yeah, most definitely. So on that same question, I don't really want to ramble on myself because I've already kind of preached about that and stuff, and I want to hear your opinion. On top of advice for new creators, what about networking and collaborating and trying to reach out and make friends, and people that struggle with that and they struggle making friends and they struggle trying to play with other people? What advice would you give for them?
This question could be so tough to a lot of people too, because
Yeah.
like I feel like a lot of people have the right intention in terms of networking. But if it's one of those things where you go into people's streams, and I'm sure you've seen this too, Feeds, and or experienced this
Hmm.
with people in your streams too, where people will join in and just be like, "Hey," like they'll follow, be like, "Hey, how you doing?" And then like they'll immediately self promo, and they'll just
Yeah.
throw their stuff in your face. And it's like, we get it, like, we're happy for you that you're doing your thing. We see you, you're working hard. You just want some extra love on it, 100%. But at the same time, it's like that's one of those, like, I guess you would call it like a cardinal sin
Yeah.
of it. It's where like people, it's gonna be like, oh, okay, I see him doing this, but it's like, yeah, like we're all trying to do our own thing, and that's
Yeah.
what kind of it makes it hard to network with somebody who does that a lot.
Hmm.
And it's very, very tough. But one of the things with networking is like, even with me and you, Feeds, like we have mutuals, and
Hmm.
that's one of the things where we kind of tied in together, and it made this whole episode even happen.
Yeah.
Just having that positive impact on someone, it can just lead to other people like talking about you, and that's what makes it easier to network with others. And also, like, on top of just networking and just being yourself, like word gets around to like one day if people want to join teams and stuff
Hmm.
like that, like people will be surprised. Even I was surprised, but people will be surprised like how impactful and how efficient like word of mouth is
Yeah.
in this community. Yeah, it can really. Don't get me wrong, it can benefit you in a lot of ways, but it can also put you in a house fire really fast.
Yeah.
So it's a scary thing, but it's also a very beautiful thing. It's where you kind of just you have to know your boundaries, like, in order to network. Like, you definitely don't want to hop in someone's stream and the first thing is just like, oh, I see this person as like I can be their friend and I hope one day they can support me. I think people need to see it as this person's really cool. I love them for the personality. I want to consider them a friend one day,
Yeah.
not with the hopes of like, oh, they're going to support me one day. And I feel like that's kind of where a lot of people fall under, is that they just see people as like another view,
Hmm.
and it's just like, why would you even do that? Because we're all people at the end of the day. We're not all just one statistic. We're not all just one number or one like under your post or whatever. But those things will come, and I think people just need to relax a little bit in terms of networking when they're first starting out, or even just in general. So
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's definitely a big thing. I think that's kind of something that people could kind of practice on, especially if you're newer. It's kind of like mentally get in a zone where you just pretend that whoever you're watching, you've not seen nothing about it. You've not seen no videos, their viewer count, how crazy their chat is, how maybe dead their chat is, whatever their circumstances. And I think that's kind of a more important thing is like don't focus on anything else they've got going on other than just what they're doing and what they're streaming, or maybe they're just talking to chat or whatever. And being able to have a good time enjoying that will put you in a perspective to never have to factor in, oh well, if I make good friends with them, maybe they'll raid me, maybe they'll retweet my post and get more interactions. I think that'll help train people, because there are people that do that in a non, it's kind of weird to say it because I feel like it could be argumentative, but there's a lot of people that do that in like a non-selfish way, because that's just how catering this community is now. Like, if you don't support me, you're not really providing enough, because at the end of the day, like, if you don't want to watch me get to my dreams, how are you going to get to your dreams? Like, it's sad that that's kind of the energy, but everybody takes things certain different ways, and it's just like you said when I asked this question, it could get taken a lot of different ways. So I think, in my opinion, you have to develop this kind of, blind side to you to only focus on that creator and just think, if let's just say you're going through a rough time, is Hoffy somebody that I could reach out to? If I felt like I had nobody, is Hoffy somebody I feel like I could DM and I could just be like, hey, like, can you just talk? I need somebody to talk to. And I think I think that's the most important part in this world. I think if that alone, if people would just normalize being able to reach out to one another, I mean, I really, even financially, I feel like this community would skyrocket just being able to check up on one another, because having that support is just, it's priceless.
Yeah, it really is. It truly is. And I like what you said about how certain people feel some type of way where it's like, hey, can you like retweet my post, or, can you happen to share my video, or even just like do certain things. I think one of the things is too, is a lot of people, they see it as like, oh, like, this person's cool, but he doesn't support my streams, or he doesn't pull up or anything. That doesn't mean the respect isn't there.
Yeah.
Like we, like as creators and streamers and everything else, the respect is there. We just all have stuff going on. We all just can't take that time of our day to immediately stop what we're doing. And it's just like, okay, I do this. At some point, it's bound to happen that, like, if there's a moment where I'm not doing anything and I see Feeds is live and be like, I'm gonna stop by Feeds' stream. Or if I see he has a post and like it's like a 8-minute video and be like, I'm not doing anything right now. Yeah,
I got 8 minutes.
I'll watch it. Yeah, I got 8 minutes, so I'm gonna watch it. I'm gonna show some love. Why not? And I think it's a very argumentative thing, because a lot of people say, well, are they really your friends? They don't support you, or they go to the they go to the number one thing that a lot of people say nowadays. It costs $0 to support your friends. Well, time ain't free either. You know what I mean? Like, if we had all the time in the world, absolutely we would support everybody the best that we can. So, like, even 24 hours in a day doesn't feel like a lot of time to, a lot of people, even to me. So it's very, very tough. But I feel like, even if you're doing your thing and you're having fun doing it, you have the respect from me, and I'm gonna try my best to, support you in what you do, 100%. And I think that's where a lot of people need to learn a little bit, is just like not to be as sensitive when it comes to like getting support from certain creators, because they cling to the bigger people, like a lot of people like Feudivs and stuff like that, or even just bigger streamer names, and they see like they don't get the support from them. It's just like, damn, they start to give up. It's like, it's not even about that, man. Like, that doesn't mean they don't respect you, they don't appreciate you, they don't want the best from you, but they just need to learn that as long as they know their own role and they know their own place in terms of just like not being too pushy, then things will be better that way. And I also, to touch on what you said, I agree. I agree that if people were, I guess you could say, more approachable in this space, it benefits so much more. Don't get me wrong, like, we all probably are in a lot of group chats, we have a lot of DMs going on day to day. You might not get to a lot of people. Like, I keep my phone on Do Not Disturb 24/7, because if I see all those notifications on my phone, I get a little anxious. So like, I always keep it on. And whenever somebody messages me and I don't see it till like maybe hours later, I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, dude. Like, I haven't seen this in forever. Or I don't want people to ever think that I just saw it. It's just like,
and you're
I'm
just
not gonna respond to it. Yeah, I'm just ignoring you. There's something like that. So I definitely do think people need to learn to be a lot more approachable. But I think that's where a self-sufficient ego comes in with a lot of people, because I feel like once people see they get like a certain amount of reputation or a certain amount of numbers, it might get to their head a little bit. I know I can say that for a few others, not everybody, but it definitely gets to their head a little bit, and they kind of disregard the whole caring for others thing. Then that's not always the best thing. I wouldn't recommend that to anybody. So if you can definitely take like a minute out of your day and respond to somebody who's going through like, just like they're in a very bad spot, definitely do it, because you don't know what that message you send or a number of messages you send to somebody could actually do for them. It could damn near save their life. So that's how I see that also.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I think, on my personal, what I've dealt with and stuff, on touching back on like reaching out to creators and, oh, they don't support me or whatever, like, my personal opinion, probably well over half the people I check up on. So before I say this, I work 8 to 5, normal shift, Monday through Friday. when I get home after I eat for an hour, I always do this for myself. I always give advice to other creators. If you're going to stream for 5 hours, stream for 4 hours. Take an hour and just help and support other people and stuff because you have that time to do it. And so for me, I get home and about an hour of my day I usually spend before I touch content, reaction videos, podcasts, or anything. I'll always take time to check up on everybody, and probably well over half of people. I'm talking like out of 60 people, maybe like 20 people that I support of that 60 like support me back in like in these terms of like what's normalized. Like me personally, I don't care because I support them and I like those people. And like a good chunk of those people have only been in my chat once or twice or liked a couple of my tweets. But that's my thing. I don't care because I'm supporting them because I like watching them. I don't expect that back. And that's something that's not normalized at all nowadays. And I think, statistically, that's kind of another thing. Like this is what everybody would love to hear. Like with me and Hoffy, Hoffy's probably been in my chat maybe 5 or 6 times. I've probably been in Hoffy's chat 5 or 6 times. We've known each other well over a year. That's the statistics that people want to hear. Hoffy's barely in Feed's stream. Feeds is barely in Hoffy's stream. It doesn't matter because that whole year we've not checked up on each other. We've still respected each other. We know each other's there and we know each other's okay and we know we're just busy. And that's what people need to understand.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I feel like once people learn that, it makes things a whole lot easier. But I've definitely known you Feeds for a good minute, and I've always seen you doing your thing, and I was just like, man, I was just like, I'll see somebody's name that I've seen around, and I was just like, oh, okay, well, like there's Feeds. I hope he's doing well, and everything. Like me, it's different for me, and I'm saying this on a more personal level. It's different for me because it's like I have social anxiety, and I know that's weird because it's like, oh, it's the internet, but like you're also a streamer, so like, how do you have social anxiety? But it's like sometimes I don't know what to say to someone, like even just hopping someone's stream or just messaging someone, like I anticipate that a little bit too much more than I should, and but if the time comes, like I will reach out to someone, but even if I just see somebody doing their thing, like I always have the utmost respect for them, and I always wish the best for them because it takes a lot. I feel like unless I don't know, I guess this does depend, but like I'll never look at somebody I've never interacted with as much or I've never talked to with as much and just be like, oh, I hate that person.
Yeah,
I like hate is such a strong word, and I feel as if a lot of people will see someone's name or just see somebody's face or what they do and they just go like, I don't really know, I dislike that person, I hate that person. If there's like a personal attack that has happened, whatever have you, listen, I can understand to an extent, but out of nowhere, out of the blue, just be like, I don't know, I hate that guy. Like, what do you hate him for? I hate the way he looks. Like, what? Like that. That's what's so weird. Like that's what's so weird and very judgmental about a lot of this stuff. And that in itself makes it kind of a little difficult to network with certain people because it's like you find out who they really are, and it's like it's very ugly. And I would advise a lot of people to do the best that you can to like stay away from those type of people because it's not the best. I know it's hard because a lot of people don't show you who they truly are until like later down the road, but 100% it's the best to stay away from those type of people. But even just like you said, Feeds, like I might have been in your stream a couple times, you might have been in my stream a couple times. It's not like I see you in somebody else's stream and I'm just like, what the hell? Feeds wasn't in my stream.
Come here. What are you doing over there? Get back here.
What are you doing? And there was actually like I've heard a few things about certain people in this comm where like they see somebody's name in certain streams and they're just like, man, he doesn't even pull up to my stream like that. Like what the heck? Like it's like, bro, who cares? Like like what? I don't understand why people have to think so negative about stuff like that. And I think it's not only is it annoying, but it's definitely a little weird. It's a little weird and malicious, and I think some people need to get a reality check on that and just be happier for people.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I agree, and I think one other thing. I got 2 little other things I want to kind of touch topic on before we end off here. You talked a little bit how even after me and you have been kind of friends for a decent long time and a lot of mutuals and stuff, you still got this kind of, and I don't mean this in an offensive way, but like you said, you have a little bit of social awkwardness and you're still trying to overcome it and stuff, and that's one big thing. A part of mental health that both me and you advocate for is people that are wanting to take breaks and that are struggling with depression and having anxiety and not knowing how to approach somebody. So kind of take me through, how that has happened for you and what advice would you give people off of your experience to try to, battle through that and try to overcome, certain circumstances you have?
Oh my God, I almost started getting emotional.
No, you're fine.
I'll be okay though. It's hard because like on a more personal level for me, there was a couple times I dealt with depression and anxiety, and I always tried to find ways to kind of battle it, if not suppress it the best I can. Um, the one thing that I always did was I would always try and distract myself. And I think that's kind of where gaming like came in.
Mhm.
If I always didn't feel like the absolute best or I always felt like very, very anxious, I would always try to, you know, I would always try to play the game even if it was just by myself or with my friends, it would always like kind of relieve my anxiety a little bit and it
Mhm.
would calm me down. Um in terms of like being alone, that's what I did. But if I'm with friends, I would always try to talk to somebody who would calm me down. And if I needed to hear something, I would always try to talk to someone who always told me what I needed to hear, as opposed to like what I wanted to hear. And oh my god, I just started getting
You're
emotional.
fine.
um, a lot of times, like I felt very alone, and it's not easy. And I truly do feel for a lot of people in this space who feel alone because like you might feel like there's not a lot of people you can reach out to, not even just in the community or even just as friends, but if you have like a family member or guardian, just having like one conversation can change your whole mindset for that day or even for a long period of time. And I never used to do that. Like I used to be a horrible communicator in terms of like my feelings and
Mhm.
like what I want to feel like, but as time went on and I learned how to kind of come to terms and communicate my feelings, it made it so much easier because I would always try to suppress my feelings. I feel like now, like at least nowadays, there's like I guess you could say like there's a stigma with males that like if you show emotion as a male, you're kind of deemed as like weak,
Oh,
or
100%.
yeah, or you're kind of deemed as like not as strong as a lot of people want you to be. And that's kind of how I grew up, was just learning to not show much emotion. And once I learned how to kind of convey that onto like my closer friends and like my family members, it made it so much easier because having like that amount of emotion, like not only is it heavy on your back, but like it almost suffocates you to a point where like you physically can't breathe. And that's kind of how I felt with anxiety.
Mhm.
I always tried to find certain things to kind of make me feel less suffocated and less like I guess cloudy in my mind. And I would always try to recommend to people, whether it's just gaming, whether it's just going for a walk, or even just talking to somebody, or even just going to the gym. Going to the gym for like 45 minutes, 2 hours, whatever. Like, oh my god, you feel so much better afterwards. Of course, like certain feelings are going to come back, but it's just like learning how to ride a bike in a way. You
Yeah.
do something so many times, it gets easier. So
Well, I
that's
think
that's
that
sort of how I feel about that.
I think that's something that me and you kind of have in common, because obviously, I mean, you've seen my posts and stuff, and we talked a little bit, obviously, of course, before we started the podcast, where I said last year was such a tough time for me. But I feel like me and you are kind of on that same line because we've both kind of been the stigma, we both kind of been vulnerable, in our persona, in our online selves and stuff, in the community that we've created. And of course, I'm not trying to make you emotional and stuff, but I do feel like I have to say this, I am very proud of what you've built and how far you've come. I feel like that is something that, you have a pretty good community. You have a very solid fan base. A lot of people support you. You get tons of likes on your tweets and all that. And I'm not saying all this because of the numbers and because of the gain, but it's because you've been vulnerable and you've let yourself show the side of Hoffy that other people don't get to, and people get to relate to it because there's a lot of people that feel like they can't be that way, and they're going to get looked down upon, or they're going to get hateful things, or they're going to have a group chat made about them about how, trashy Hoffy is and how dumb he looks with snot rolling down his nose or whatever, And I feel like that's kind of the thing for you is, I don't know what battles you've went through. I don't know what you've struggled through. I don't know what happened when you're alone. And if I could have been there, I definitely would have. But I think all the stuff that,
Likewise.
yeah.
Say vice versa for you also.
And I think all the stuff that you had went through, not only has it made you, kind of who you are today, but just like I said, I say I'm proud of you in that aspect because look at you now. You've got your YouTube that's doing really well. You joined Dare. You're a part of a very successful community that has a lot of amazing creators. You're now a part of this Respawn Recruits that has a lot more great creators and stuff. And your streams always do well. People make fun of you off the Polar Express, and I'm sure many other things. And, it's all laughs and kicks and giggles at the end of the day, but it's because they appreciate what you've built and because they support the face behind Hoffy. And I think that's kind of the more important thing.
I appreciate that so much. If it seems like I don't have a lot of words to say to you for that, I really do appreciate it.
Of course.
One more thing I wanted to kind of add on to this conversation is that, like, my first few times battling depression, I always thought like things wouldn't get better. You know what I mean? You always have that feeling like no matter what you try to do or who you try to talk to, things just don't get better. And the way that I see it is like over time, there's always going to be better days ahead. Even if right now it feels like you're at rock bottom or mentally you're just like stumped, there's always going to be a way to get out of that. It might take some time for a lot of people and different people, and even for myself, it took a lot of time. But I always think of certain things with longevity. If like right now I might feel bad, or right now in this moment, not right now, like I feel fine, but I'm just saying in general, like in this specific type of moment, if you feel really, really down, imagine like how you're going to feel 3 months from now or 6 months or even a year, and if you feel the same type of way, then there's other things you can do. Like you can see somebody professionally. You can continue to do what you can with taking care of your mental health or even taking care of your physical health. Just things like that that'll kind of, build up your morale within yourself, and it'll help you so much more. And if you need to seek professional help, then obviously do it if you feel comfortable enough. I wouldn't just push that on somebody who feels a certain type of way and they feel like nothing's working out. I wouldn't just be like, my first thing wouldn't just be like, you need to see a professional. I would never do that. And I think wow, holy shit.
You're
okay,
fine,
I'm sorry,
man. You're all good.
I feel like when I was at like my worst, I guess you could say, like I've had people close to me where the first thing or their first suggestion was like, you need to see a professional, because it's like it made me feel a lot more different. You know what I mean? Than other people. And I didn't like that. I didn't like feeling different.
You felt like you stood out in a negative way.
Yeah, I felt like I stood out in a negative way. And if anybody feels, an immense amount of like anxiety or depression, I don't ever want someone to feel different. Like if somebody came to me, right, and they were tell me just about their day, or like something happened, or they're just pushing their trauma on me, I never feel bad when someone pushes their trauma on me, because like we've all experienced our own things, and I just try to be like somebody they can talk to. I just try to be I just try to be a listener for them, just so they can vent and get off I just want them to get whatever's on their chest off their chest, and they feel that immense amount of weight lifted off them. And it's again, that's one of those things where it's easier said than done, because some people like me, like I never went out of my way to reach out to somebody, but once I kind of broke that barrier and made it so much easier, and it made me feel so much more at peace with myself, because a lot of people gave me a lot more insight of what I needed to hear instead of what I wanted to hear. Like you could tell somebody, or you could even tell me all day long that I need to see a professional to feel like X, Y, and Z, but that's just one of those hypotheticals that it's like, well, what if I don't want to do that? Because it's like I might feel a lot more different than I should be. Like, what if I just need to do this, and I just need to have a sit down with somebody, and just I need to talk to someone who understands me. Like that's it. Because along the longest time, on a personal level, like for the longest time, like I always felt, I guess you'd say, like misunderstood. Not that like I'm different from a lot of people in terms of like an egotistical way, but it's just like sometimes some people don't really understand my emotions when it comes to certain things. And just being able to talk to somebody who's patient, and just being able to talk to somebody who is very, very willing to listen, like that goes the longest distance. Like that, it means so much to me, and I know it means to a lot of people whenever they're dealing with certain things like depression and anxiety, and a lot of mental a lot of mental illnesses. Like it really does mean a lot to a lot of people, whether
Yeah.
they think it doesn't. It truly does. And I commend a lot of people who do that, who take time out of their day to make sure somebody's okay, or even just like, whoa, even just like you said yourself, feeds like just
Mhm.
saying I'm proud of you, like that right there, that can mean so much to somebody, because like I feel like for a lot of people, and for myself included, like hearing that phrase, it means the world, because it's just like, we all go through life doing our own thing, and we all get busy, and we all get occupied with time. But even just hearing from, whether it's from somebody you don't talk to as often or one
Mhm.
of your favorite people, hearing like I'm proud of you, like it's a different type of feeling, and it truly makes you feel like everything you're doing is exactly what you should be doing, and you should continue and strive to do that.
Yeah.
And that's seriously one of the best things that you could say to someone. And that kind of ties into what we said earlier, just being kind to somebody. It not only were we talking about supporting a creators, whatever, and it costs $0, it also costs $0 to be kind to somebody.
Mhm.
Like it's
Yeah.
it's not it's not that hard as people make it out to be. It's just a matter of doing it,
Yeah.
and it sickens me that some people go out of their way to be so negative, and
Yeah.
especially in today's society. It
Yeah.
sucks.
I think that's kind of the other part of it too, of that, on that topic of saying I'm proud of you and saying all these nice things. There's a lot of people that do that, but they don't mean it. And that's why like for me, like obviously nobody knows what battles I've went through. They don't know what you've went through and stuff. Everybody in your own head feels like you're the only one that's got it going on. And you have to overcome that until you understand that everybody else may have experienced somewhat of the same thing. Everybody goes through it. It's not just a you thing, and it'll get better. But for me, that's how I told you, that's how I started the podcast, because I was at my lowest point and I didn't know who I wanted to be. I wasn't succeeding. I wasn't building the community that I wanted to build. And my podcast is just something I've always wanted to do. And so now, I hear it all the time on my podcast, thank you for saying these things. I really mean it, yada, yada, all this stuff. And it means I'm not trying to blow it off. Like it does mean things to me. But doing this podcast is my own way of kind of coping with myself, like with me personally. And I think that's a big thing, because a lot of people's like, oh, like, Feeds is so genuine. Like, it's kind of weird. Like, I've had other people like call me out and be like, oh, like, it's really weird how he's so genuine. And that's kind of the stigma that I hate about this community, or dislike per se, is everybody always thinks there's something more to you. And there are people that come out and they're weirdos or other things going on, and it stinks. But most of the time it's not. Most of the time people that show their face are usually who they are. And it's just like, like you said earlier with me and you, a genuine person can see a genuine person. And I think at the end of the day, it's you have to, just because you're going through stuff, and I understand that things stink, but you can't battle it alone. I think that's really the only. I can't speak a whole lot. I've not dealt with a lot myself, just my small little bit I had last year. But the one thing for sure that I can say is that I can't do it alone. And just because you feel alone doesn't mean that you can't reach out and ask people for help. Like one of my best buddies, his name's Leif Eats Lemons, and me and him have both went through our own personal times. And if we didn't have each other when we did, I don't know where I would be. I may not even do this podcast if it wasn't for him and some other creators. And so that's the thing, is a lot of people are just kind of waiting for them to be reached out to. And just because you're at a really low point at your life does not mean that you can't make that change.
Hmm. Absolutely. No, I definitely agree with that. Not only maybe it was just for me, but I feel like if people find the courage to even just reach out, it definitely will benefit them in the long run. Even if they're not feeling the absolute greatest and you don't want to talk to anybody, I even just think like having one conversation will make you feel so much better. And it has to be, in terms of, at least with me, on a more
Mm-hmm.
personal level, like if it's somebody I feel makes me feel like vulnerable with my emotions, and I'm able to actually like open up, and I don't have to worry about saying certain things,
Right.
it makes me feel so much better. It makes me feel so much easier. And I would just recommend to somebody who isn't feeling the absolute best, just find somebody who can seriously calm you down and talk to you to a point where you feel safe, and and that anything you say isn't just taken for granted, and they're actually trying to help you and be there for you. And if you can feel that, like that particular feeling is something that like you just want to hold on to forever.
Yeah.
And because I don't know about anybody else, but one of the biggest things that's helped me when I'm dealing with depression, or I'm feeling very, very alone, was just talking with somebody not only I admire very much, but somebody I love very, very much. And it just it makes everything like so much easier,
Yeah.
and it just puts me in a better mindset, even if it is just for like a temporary amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
It really helped me out in the long run, because if I didn't learn to reach out to my friends, or if I didn't learn how to speak to my family on a more on a closer level, I don't really know where I would be at this moment, or where I would be today. So that's one thing, like you said, Feeds, like if people just learn to just find the courage to reach out to people, and just being being more vulnerable. Like
Yeah.
that's it. I would say, just having trust in other people, it definitely helps a lot. And even if you do feel alone, there is somebody who's willing to listen. Even if
Yeah.
you feel like they're not, because there's times where I'm talking to someone and I feel like I'm taking time away from them, or I'm taking time away from them, or
Mm-hmm.
I'm bothering them. You're not
Mm-hmm.
bothering anybody. I promise you, there might be some people who might feel some certain type of way, but if you're reaching out to someone and you feel like you're bothering them, chances are you're not. And if they tell you that you're bothering them, then they're not your friend. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, they're not your friend. They're not your
100%.
family member. They're not actually there for you. And that's right then and there. That's when you know what that person is to you. Anybody who truly adores you and loves you and wants to see the absolute best out of you and wants to make sure you're okay, you're never bothering them, especially when they have the amount of time to reach out back to you and to talk to you. That's all that matters, is that um you find those people who truly care for you. And
Yeah.
once you do, it's a different type of feeling,
Yeah.
and it makes things so much easier. And that's one of the biggest things that's helped me. And I feel like that's still something that I still kind of have to deal with,
Yeah.
is just dealing with anxiety and just having that social anxiety, and just being in like bigger groups of people. It kind of comes in waves.
Yeah. Of
But
course.
um, just meeting somebody new also, that's one of those things too. But it's a process. It's all a process, and then once you learn to deal with it, it definitely gets a lot more smoother. you
Yeah.
know,
And I mean,
and
there's.
it's
Go ahead.
beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, there's not really a whole lot more I can add on to that, but the last thing I can really say to add on to that conversation is, I mean, if you're going through something and you feel like you're struggling, you feel like you're alone, hey, you got two people right here, me and Hoffy. Reach out to us.
That
We'll
you
be
do. That you do.
here.
I swear that you do.
So
Oh,
before we wrap everything up here, I got one more question, of course, which is kind of more so something you wanted to talk about. Talk about just a little bit for the women's space. Obviously, the women are overshadowed a lot. They don't get any respect that they deserve, and they definitely have their own battles that they have to, struggle with and overcome. So, kind of take me through that. You wanted to talk about that just a little bit.
the main thing I wanted to speak on when it comes with women in the gaming space, I'm not by any means, when I say this, before I say this, I'm not trying to compare. I'm not trying to say X, Y, and Z. All I'm saying is that I feel like women in the gaming space, they don't really get the flowers they deserve.
Mhm.
And what I mean by that is that if somebody sees a woman who's excelling in the gaming space, they already assume something. They already put a label on her, like, oh, she's a woman, that's why she's doing so well. But how about we start thinking like, oh, she's a woman, she's very determined, she's very hardworking, she deserves what she has, she deserves what she's gonna have. So why can't we just respect them in the same way we might have respect, anybody else? I think that's one of the biggest things that kind of makes me a little bit pissed off for a lot of women in this space,
Mhm.
because not only is it very male saturated and it's very, very toxic, but I hope one day like a lot of people can see past a lot of the narratives that people try to put on women, and saying that they don't work hard, or they don't deserve what they have, or they don't deserve to be able to have a spot in this industry. I always hated that argument. I always
Yeah.
hated people putting that narrative on women in general. And I just think that, like, because even in terms of streaming, there's a lot of entertaining people. There's a lot of entertaining women. There's even a lot of women who compete that I can even say are a lot better than me, and
Yeah.
I will always say that.
100%.
Not because I feel like I'm forced to say that, because I genuinely mean that. Like there's a lot of really talented women in this space, and I feel like when we can, we definitely got to give them their flowers when they deserve it. They deserve it always, but it's more likely that a lot of people will give women shit just because they want to give women shit, and it sucks. It really sucks to see. And I hope one day, I know we can't erase it forever. I hope one day we can at least lessen that whole narrative on women with gaming. It would truly make me a lot happier. And and obviously, like, I'm a guy saying this, so I don't
Hmm.
know how people are gonna feel about that. But like, I truly just want to see women get a lot more respect than what they've been getting, at least
Yeah.
from the past few years to this day. Like, it really does need to happen, and I hope it does one day.
Yeah.
Seriously,
Yeah, most
that's the
definitely.
type of awareness that we need on it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm right there with you, man. I mean, I'll say it. I don't care, dude. Women have it harder. I don't care. Like, I don't care that I'm a dude. That's like the most like typical thing that like goes around. It's like, oh, women don't have it harder. Like they do because like not obviously not you, but like you as in whoever's causing those issues. You're the one that's making it harder for them to stream and be consistent and post content and be compared to other people. It's because of all these comparisons and your own personal opinions about how they're good at the game or how you could outdo them. And like you're the reason why it is harder for them. Like I hate that saying of saying women don't have it harder. They do. Otherwise, this whole men women thing would not be an analogy. And that's just the thing that I definitely hate. And they deserve a lot more respect than they get. And I love being able to see them pop off and post their clips and stuff and get hyped up. It's the coolest thing in the world to see because they've been so pushed down for so long. Like it's time for them to start coming up, you know? Like it really is. And I hate it because anytime me and you talk about anything, you know, and that's a big thing with my podcast. I even told you this before we start. I've had a lot of women, well, probably over 15, 20 women I've had on this podcast. I ask them all the same thing about opinions for other women creators that are struggling with streaming, getting into gaming, having, you know, mental issues and stuff like that of streaming and face cam and all that stuff. You know, I've asked a lot of women creators about it. And the one common thing that always shows is that if you don't support each other, then that stuff's going to keep happening to you, you know, and just because even if you're a guy, this definitely applies to men for sure. If you're a man, you know, so like if you're me or you're Hoffy and you're just scrolling on TikTok or Twitter or Kick or something, you're watching a female creator do gaming and her chat is, you know, just starting to throw like a bunch of oddballs and negative stuff or whatever, like you not stepping in is also a part of the problem. And I've defended a lot of my women and share in my fair time, and you have as well. We have a lot of mutual creators, and especially my fiance. You know, I've been with her for almost 7 years, and she's the love of my life, and I'll always defend her through anything. And I have plenty of time, especially in Valorant. Man, Valorant is so toxic for no reason. But I definitely think that that's something a lot of people say that they don't have it harder, but they're also the ones that are in a pub lobby in the next match bashing them and saying all these nasty, disgusting stuff for no reason.
Yep, yep, seriously, and it's truly sickening. You know, it really is because like even for a lot of female creators, if it's not one thing where people are bashing them, it's a lot of people supporting them for the wrong reasons, and
Mm-hmm.
that's what sucks too. It's like on these certain sites like Kick, Twitch, whatever have you, you're gonna have weirdos. You're gonna have
Mm-hmm.
trolls. That's just the reality of it, and I can gladly say that they have it harder, because they never really know who's actually supporting them for what they
Yep.
do or who's supporting them for their relationship status. That's what really sucks. You know what I mean? Because they could have someone who follows them for X amount of time, and then next thing you know, boom, it's like, what the heck? I thought you
Yeah.
were supporting me just because you want to support
we
me.
we just got to worry about the follow for follows. That's all we got. That's all we got to worry about.
Yeah, seriously. No, seriously. Like. Don't get me wrong. I love my homies coming to chat and they call me handsome. I'm like, oh, like I love this. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? But that's one thing. That's one thing they always have to deal with, man. And it's very very gross. And I understand, how certain people feel about that. But I can, without a doubt, say that women have it harder in this space.
Mm-hmm.
And even with women supporting other women, you know, just like going out of the way to be toxic towards each other, it's not helping the problem at all. And I feel like the more chances that they have standing together, it's so much easier to fight off this problem.
Yeah.
And that again, that's one of those things where it's easier said than done, and there's other things going on, with personal opinions of each other. But that's just like this is always something I always wanted to try and raise awareness for the
Hmm.
best that I could.
Yeah, of
And
course.
I really do believe that in the future, like you said, feeds women need to be pushed up a lot more. We need to
Yeah.
hold them on that high pedestal because they truly deserve it. There's a lot of amazing, talented women in this space, and they need to be glorified for what they do and what they're looking to do.
Yeah, most definitely. And I'll tell you one of the things before we wrap up everything here. One of my favorite things that I see a part of the women community is when they all get together for like a five girls night or a six squad of girls and stuff, and they all play and stuff. That stuff is the most awesome stuff because
And they
it's
go crazy.
yeah,
and
like they go
crazy.
insane. They're
It's
always
awesome.
supporting each other. They've all got themselves tabbed up and added and Twitter and stuff like that. And that to me is what really warms my heart. Especially like there was this one. I think it was Honeybee Baby. I don't know if you know her that much at all, but I think it was either her or somebody else that had made a post, and I tagged a couple lady creators that I knew, and I was like, hey, like you guys should all kind of chime in. It'd be really cool to watch you guys play together. Like 2 days later, they did a whole night of just women and just a big old lobby just full of women and playing, and it was awesome because it was just having good times. They was drinking wine. They was all just playing. It was sick, and I wish that we could see more of that because I feel like you clearly see that with dudes every single day, but you don't ever see stuff like that with women, and I wish we'd see it more.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really cool. There's like Julia is one of them. You know what I mean? Like you ever just like join
Shout
into a
out
stream
Julia.
and Julia, oh my gosh, I love her. She will let anybody hear it in game chat, and that's just like that's one of the best things because it's like no matter what happens, like guys will say anything in a COD lobby, God
Hmm.
forbid, but like she will let you hear it, and I was
Hmm.
just like, oh my god, it's amazing. It's so entertaining. Not only that, but it's just it's amazing to see because it's like, oh, how the whole switch is just flipped, and it's
Yeah.
awesome. I love stuff like that. So even just seeing a lot of girls like play in a full stack lobby or full stack party, it's so dope. It's so
Yeah.
dope. Like I'm all for it. I'll always be all for it.
Yeah, yeah, most definitely. And like I said again, shout out Julie. She's somebody I tune into her streams probably every other day. I just say hi because I don't have a lot of time, but she's always barking right back, and it's the most beautiful thing to see because there's a lot there's a lot of people that if they're watching this podcast, they may hate when I say this, but there's a lot of men that need to get shut down. There really is. There's a lot of dudes that just need to get their stuff to it because instantly, if let's say we was in a woman's lobby and me and you was playing with her or whatever, and we start fighting, oh, you're a boyfriend, blah 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 blah. It's like shut the fuck up, it's like I hate that comment, bro. Like you can't even be a friend, and so it stinks, man. But I love it. I love seeing other women creators be able to bark back and put them in their place. It's such a humbling thing to kind of spectate.
Mm-hmm. It really is.
So yeah, but we've had a long conversation. I think this is, if not one of the longest podcasts I've had so far. It's been an awesome time being able to hang out and talk with you about everything. Just a few more things before we wrap everything up. Is there anything that you have coming up? You're a little laggy.
Wait, we good?
No, you were good.
Oh, okay, I was like,
you're fine.
I was like, what did this
No,
happen?
you're fine. You're fine.
Honestly, like what I have coming up, I would just say that like I'm gonna be doing a lot more variety. Like I want to be playing a lot more single player games, even like
Yeah.
indie horror games. Like I don't know if you guys or I don't know if you guys ever watched like Queso. I'm sure everybody has seen Queso, but like he's kind of inspired me to like step out of my
Comfort
COD
zone.
comfort zone
Hmm.
and everything like that. So that's the one thing I could really just say at the moment. In terms of like videos or anything else,
Yeah.
just gonna be doing whatever and just doing my thing.
Are we going to see a Lego Indiana Jones Let's Play?
You might see if they release like a new gen game, you might see like a Polar Express walkthrough or something.
yeah. I need to see the thumbnails on that one. That will be glorious. Alrighty, well, it's been an awesome time talking with you. Before we wrap everything up, is there any last words you want to say to anybody watching?
Well, first I just want to say thank you, Feeds,
Of
because
course.
this has been amazing, and I not only are you giving me your time, but I really do appreciate it. Because we've been meaning to do this for a while, and
Hmm.
I do not regret a single second I spent here with you. We've talked about a lot of things, and you saw a lot of my emotions come out, and I
Of
really do
course.
appreciate it.
Of course.
I appreciate how genuine you are as a person, and how kind you are as a person, and just yourself as a creator and everything else. And I really do hope that everything you're looking for in the future comes to you.
Thank you.
Um, if I had to say one thing to people watching this, no matter what people say, just keep doing your thing. You know, just block out the noise and just focus on what you got going on. And like I said before, just keep your head on a swivel and things will play out. Yeah. Keep doing your thing.
Definitely, yeah. So I appreciate everybody watching. Hoffy, of course, again, thank you so much for being on here. Please check Hoffy out. His Twitter is below his head. In the description is all his links to all his stuff. Please go check him out and support him on all his social media. Hoffy, again, thank you so much for being able to just kind of take the time and hang out with me.
Thank you, my brother. I appreciate it so much.
Alrighty, well, guys, it's been Feeds Mindset episode 40. That is all for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, go support him as well, and we'll see you in the next one. My name is Seeds, and I'm out, guys. Peace.